Pelton, welcome. It is Wednesday. I hope you're having a great week so far in the middle of the week here. Had a lot of great projects on here this week, and it's just been really exciting to see the space. I feel like, this is my gut feeling, I feel like the DeFi space is starting to move forward. We're starting to, I'm not getting pitched nearly as many of just the degen crazy, 10% a day plays that I once was. And it feels good. So we're getting a lot more plays that are just, hey, these are things that you can actually move forward in your financial journey. So been really great to see. If you're in the audience, what we need from you today here as we get started, this, I say it every time, so you probably know, but need you to go ahead and hit the like button and comment question of the day. You know what? I'm going to do something different. This is just to kind of get engagement going for the YouTube algorithm. What's your favorite food? Let's go ahead and go with that. I know that's cliche, but let's start with that. For me, honestly, probably tacos. Have to go with tacos for me. So let's go ahead and we'll start. Hank, welcome to the channel. Can you go ahead and start out by introducing yourself? And then we will jump into Flynt Finance.
Fantastic. Thanks for the awesome intro. It's very nice to be here speaking with you and everyone in the audience. So a little bit about me, a background about me. I've been in crypto since around 2017, mainly in product management for centralized exchanges. So making sure these products get pushed out at the right time. At Flynt, I support the product team and the marketing team to deliver our strategies to the people that need it the most. Yeah.
Okay, very good. No, I love that. Can you, again, assuming people in the audience have never heard of you, they've never heard of Flynt Finance, can you kind of give us a high level, I like to call it an elevator pitch. So you're in the elevator with somebody, they say, hey, what does Flynt Finance do? How would you kind of explain to someone your vision, what you're trying to do?
Yeah, so Flynt Finance, as you can see, is a platform that generates yield through fully backtested strategies. And we usually do it through options trading and DeFi engagement. We don't have many, but we have a selection of risk-varied strategies to choose from. So we should be able to cater for most of the risk appetites. Yeah, so we generate yield on Bitcoin, ETH, and USDC mainly. We also have staking platforms as well for Vega protocol. The team itself, we've been more revolved around the centralized technologies in both crypto and TradFi, but we were born in the light of all the tragedies that happened last year. So we're very devoted to being extremely transparent with all our operations, our trades and everything, including the funds as well within the platform. At the moment, we yield around 20 to 40% on average. We usually sell, we take direction on Bitcoin and ETH. So we usually sell options, take the short side. For USDC, it's a delta neutral strategy. So we try not to take exposure in the price movements while generating yield through GMX, which you guys may be aware of, which is one of the biggest decentralized derivatives exchanges. And yeah, recently we've actually revamped our Bitcoin strategy. So you can see two strategies there, and we've revamped it so that it reduces risk, but at the same time enhances returns. And the backtest strategy resulted in about 106% APY, which was quite surprising for us as well. But yeah, we tried to make the customer experience as simple as possible. So the customers would just take two steps, which would be deposit and subscribe, and then you'll be earning weekly. So yeah.
Okay, so can you kind of explain? Yeah, how does this? So you create an account, right? And then you do need a KYC. Is that correct?
Yes. So you create an account, you KYC, which would take around 1 to 2 minutes, and then you can deposit Bitcoin, ETH, USDC, or Vega. And then you just need to subscribe.
Okay. And when you subscribe, are you actually depositing your funds into it then? And then in the background, you guys are running your covered calls, or how does that kind of work on the back end when someone subscribes?
Yeah. So when you make a deposit into Flynt, it goes into our custody platform, which is CEFFU, which is previously called Binance Custody. So we work with Binance to kind of secure for the security of the assets, to make sure there's no hacks in anything, and then it's kept there until the user subscribes into the strategy. So once the user subscribes, let's say for Bitcoin and ETH, it gets sent to Deribit. Deribit is one of the biggest options exchanges in crypto, and then we trade options there. For USDC, it's either sent to Binance to hedge, and also to our Arbitrum wallet, which is all shown in our Discord channels, to buy into GLP, which is GMX's liquidity pool.
Okay, this is very fascinating. So I've not seen other projects do it quite this way. Maybe you could help with education too. I think a lot of people aren't familiar with covered calls, or maybe they know covered calls maybe from stocks, but how does that work in the crypto market? Does it work the same way? Do you want to just quickly run down what a covered call is and what you're doing there?
Yeah, so it's kind of like selling an insurance, and it's not much different to what happens in stocks and TradFi. So you're essentially selling an insurance for the upside movement of Bitcoin prices. So people would buy a contract from us to say that if the price goes above a certain price, then they take the profits, but they have to pay us premium for that option, to the right to buy. So we're selling that each week. And our backtest strategies show around a 95% win rate throughout the year. And yeah, so we're essentially selling the right to buy Bitcoin at a specified price for a fee, and that fee becomes the yield. And we use leverage, so we're not 1x. So there's risk involved in our covered call strategies, and there may be potential for being liquidated, but we tried to kind of, as I mentioned before, we revamped our strategy so that it minimizes the drawdowns. So if you see in the chart that James has up right now, you can see the yellow parts. What we implemented this time is a signal that kind of shows when we're going to see a big movement in price. So at that time, we don't sell options, because if we sell, that means if the Bitcoin price goes up, we may lose some Bitcoins. So at that time, we change our position to a long position in options, and then we try to take the gains. So when the signal occurs, we take the long position, and if it goes up or down a certain amount, let's say maybe 15 to 20% above or below the current market price, then we would be making returns. So yeah.
Okay, very cool. And actually, yeah, Funny Turo says very refreshing to see all these real revenue projects. Totally agree. What is the usual drawdown on these? So this says 16.4 is kind of the max. Is that what you're kind of seeing, or what's the usual drawdown that you're seeing on these?
Yeah, so before we revamped the strategy and we were just selling systematically each week, there was actually around a 50-something% drawdown, but we've the backtest strategy reduced that by a significant amount. So a one-time a max drawdown we've seen was around a 16% drawdown, and we don't get many of those like in real bull markets or like sudden moves in prices.
Okay, very good. And Quarter Mile says backtesting performance often doesn't match live performance. Do you want to talk about how long has this been running live, and what have been the results compared to the backtest?
Yeah, so until we've been running the Bitcoin covered call strategy since September last year. So since then, we've experienced one loss when SVB kind of broke down, and then Yellen was like, "All right, we're gonna bail out these banks," and then it just shot from 20K to 28K in like a couple of hours. So that's when we experienced a small loss of 10%. But that was because the team was monitoring the market very precisely, and we decided to stop out of the strategy earlier than what we would have been, and we minimized losses then. Same case with like USDC. Our team's monitoring the whole time, and when USDC broke the peg, I think it took us about 10 to 15 minutes after the news came out to convert that all into USDT so that we're not exposed to the FUD. So yeah, we're very responsive.
Okay, very good. And then can you explain? So there's the BTC covered call to X and the X5 and the X3. I guess that's Ethereum. Can you kind of talk about the differences? Obviously, this one's Bitcoin. These are Ethereum, so that's a difference. But do you want to talk about maybe the difference between these two products here?
Yeah, so X5 is our original strategy. So we take 5x leverage in selling call options. But we've revamped it. So this strategy has also improved. So we got the signals. If we get signals for this strategy, we don't enter any trades just to reduce the risk of being exposed to upward movement. With the X, we take another step. We switch the position into a long position so that we get gains on these upward movements.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And then do you want to talk a bit about the Ethereum covered call? How should somebody think about, hey, should I get into the Bitcoin covered calls or should I get into the Ethereum covered calls? Is it just which asset do you believe in more? Is it best to diversify? How do you think through something like that?
Yeah, I think it's more about what crypto you want to stack. So if you want to stack more Bitcoins, you get into the Bitcoin strategy. If you want to stack more ETH, you go into the ETH strategy. The ETH strategy has a lower leverage just because ETH is much more volatile compared to Bitcoin. And yeah, it's pretty much the same strategy, but on ETH. But our USDC strategy is completely different. What we do is GMX has a liquidity pool called GLP, and GLP holders get 70% of the fee revenue from GMX. And GMX is one of the biggest decentralized derivatives exchanges out there. And GLP is a basket of assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Uniswap, Link, and stablecoins. So we hedge the price exposure with a 1x or a 2x short position on these volatile assets to be out of all the price movements, price exposure, so that we're just safely yielding the 70% fee returns. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Can you kind of explain? You kind of just mentioned it a little bit, but maybe dig it into a little bit more because I think this is pretty fascinating. What exactly is this chart? This is your setting C. So these are different strategies you have. Is that correct? And
Yeah.
then is this like if you were just on GLP alone? Is that what those numbers are? Can you kind of explain this chart?
Yeah, so the different settings is how often we rebalance the position, but we haven't purposely shown how often we rebalance because there's a chance of front running our trades, and alpha, it's it needs to be kept secret. But setting C was the one that performed the best, and that's what we run on. Just holding GLP is the fourth one. You can see better on the charts if you scroll down a little more. So yeah, the next chart. So yeah, the line on the bottom is the if you just hold GLP, that's kind of the price movement that you will experience if you hold the basket of assets. But if you run the USDC strategy with us, then it kind of tames down all the little spikes, so that we're earning safely.
Okay, very good. And has this been going since September also as well, or how long has this one been going for?
This one's been running since January, and I think the highest APY in a week we experienced was 44%. During low vol periods, like low volatility periods, where not many futures traders want to trade because there's not much action, we get much lower yields. So it really varies on how much people trade on GMX.
Okay, very good. Very, very fascinating. So I love what you're doing here. So what would you say are the potential risks? Again, that's what I always like to try to point out for investors is, hey, you're getting 34% on your Bitcoin that you don't get that if you store it in your cold storage. So there's going to be some risk there. What would you say are the biggest risks for someone getting into these different strategies here?
Yeah, so definitely no risk, no return. And we try to inform all the risks that are involved in the strategies as much as possible. Um, for the Bitcoin strategies and the ETH strategies, if we're in a sell position, obviously, and if the price goes up over maybe 20%, then we start making a loss times the amount of leverage. So that's kind of the risk there. Um, but when we go into a long position, then we're much more like not really exposed to much risk because um, we know the maximum amount of loss we can make, which is just the premium we pay to buy the option. So yeah.
Okay, and is this something someone could do on their own? Like, do you offer an educational aspect where, hey, you can go do this on your own, or is the best bet just depositing in, kind of let you guys handle things?
So I think what we've seen amongst our customers was we've seen a lot of people that haven't been exposed to much options, but as soon as they look at the options charts or the options chain on Deribit or another options trading platform, they would just be put off because it's not just a one order book and you buy and sell. It's like there's different prices and each price has a different order book and there's a call option and a put option. It's very complicated. So um, they try and then they come back. They tend to come back. And some of the more experienced traders that also trade options find it very tedious to kind of manage the position each week because it's a weekly strategy and they have to sit down at their desk on their PC at 8 a.m. UTC each Friday uh, to see if they could enter a new position. And they have to monitor that over the weekend to see when the best time it is to enter the position. So yeah, I think we're kind of catering for both experienced and non-experienced users, but everyone can do it themselves. It's just we take more time monitoring the markets and everything.
Okay, very good. Yeah, so you guys basically it could be a full-time active income job for you if you want to go, figure out all the options trading and all that. What Flynt does is it turns it into passive income for you. So you can just put your money in there. You guys you'll take a little bit of the fees, but then it's passive for you, and you don't have to be an expert in it. You don't have to watch all the things and be the expert in that. So really like that. Wanted to shout out a couple people. Jordan, welcome to the community. Thank you for hopping on here today. Justin, great reminder. Please do hit the like button. Again, it's right below the video. You're watching the video. Like button's right below it. You might as well click it, and it helps get the spread out there for word about this. Quarter Mile says the team is a reference to manual traders. And he just wanted to know more about the team. How many people? Is any of it automated with bots? And then he says he's been curious about GMX bots. You want to talk into that?
Yeah, so options isn't very high frequency. So we just trade once a week. Um, and the rest of it is just monitoring the markets to see if there's any big macro news or sudden spikes that could occur. So it's very manual. With the GMX strategy, we're hedging on futures. So that becomes a little bit more automated. We have a lot of informative technologies where we can call the price of the underlying asset, the futures price, the market price, and so on, and also ensuring the different ratio of the GLP. So we try to automate that a little bit more when we trade futures, but it's still the rebalancing doesn't happen like every minute. So yeah, it's not as of an automated strategy. It's more manual at the moment. Our team is around 10 people, so we're not a big team. And our quant team is, if you look at our backtested strategies, it's backtested results, it's very in-depth, with a lot of big data analysis. So a lot of our quant researchers are have a background in big data management and analysis. So yeah, and also a lot of the majority of the team were building centralized exchanges, and also stock exchanges as well. So we're kind of very familiar with the exchange specs, how to integrate with them quite well and everything. So yeah.
Okay, very good. And I know my Bitcoin audience, so people who are holding a lot of Bitcoin, and I know they're obsessed with, hey, not your keys, not your crypto, and they're worried about, giving that authority to somebody else. Do you want to be? What would you say to someone who's like, hey, I don't want to give my, custody to anyone else? And do you want to talk a little bit more about the CEFFU partnership too, and how that works with Binance?
Yeah, so I guess if like not your keys, not your crypto also applies to us. So we can't say anything about it because we take custody of the assets. If you're not willing to give up the keys, then I don't think we can handle it unless we go DeFi, which isn't something in our near plans at the moment. But we try to build that trust by doing the proof of funds, which at the moment isn't an address because we have most of our assets on Deribit or Binance. The ones that we are engaged in DeFi with, like the GLP or Vega, with GLP we showcase our debank address. With Vega, we also showcase our address that we're holding the Vega. But with Deribit, it was just very difficult for us to show how much of the funds are actually there. So what we do is we take a screenshot of our API page with all the assets that we're holding, and then we show that every week once the position is closed on our Discord. But yeah, so we're trying our best to kind of build that trust to make sure that we're not doing any funny things. But if we want to get into positions, then the only option is to have it there. So, but we are definitely looking into various DeFi protocols like Lyra or Avo, where we can do decentralized options, and we're more than happy to do it. But it's just front running, or because we have to kind of show all of our orders, which is the difficult part. We don't want to be attacked. We don't want to be, because our best interest is to generate yield for our customers, right? The best yield for our customers. So yeah, but with CEFFU, prior to CEFFU, we were working with Fireblocks, which is also another leading custody platform. But CEFFU, they're an arm, a subsidiary of Binance directly. So what they provide is a cold wallet, a hot wallet, and the good part is we're able to trade on Binance directly from a cold wallet, which increases security of our assets. So yeah, I think that's the good part. We don't have to kind of go from an address and then send it to Binance, and then from Binance we trade, and then we have to send the customer's assets back to CEFFU so that we can withdraw. So we try to minimize as much as possible going through different addresses. So yeah.
Yeah, it's not like they're just sending to your personal address and then you're kind of doing with it what you will. But CEFFU, and not to be confused, by the way, DeFi people, not to be confused with CEFFU. Okay, that's a different DeFi project, not the same thing. This is CEFFU. But yeah, it's a subsidiary of Binance and basically just allows a custody for third parties. So very, very good. Can you tell us a little bit about the roadmap? So if everything works out, what's in the future? Where do you see this kind of going in the next, 1 year in crypto? 1 year is long enough, but maybe 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. Where do you kind of see this going, and what's on the roadmap?
We're looking into various things. So we could either get into structured products, which is like we jump into multiple option strategies with futures, with spot, which makes it very complex, and then we make it into a product so that users can just subscribe. But are we able to make that transparent for our users? We're trying to figure that out. We can also get into staking on different assets like Cosmos or other T plus or even ETH. We can also, do other assets for covered calls as well. Maybe Solana, maybe a Polygon, maybe whatever it could be. So we're exploring into different options, different strategies that we can execute transparently. But we've been launching new strategies maybe every two to 2.5 months now. And after our fourth launch, we just decided we wanted to improve our existing strategies, which that's why we had the new Bitcoin strategy out. And it actually came out like a couple of weeks ago. So we have that. And then, we have other strategies that we could enhance. So I think in the short term, we'll look to work on enhancing the existing products. Because this time we were able to actually build a backtesting framework so that we can backtest much easier. Before it was just like we have a whole lot of trade data and we're like, all right, how are we going to juggle this? But now it's just very systematic. So yeah, it's improving.
Sorry, I missed the mute button there. That sounds great. And I think coming from the DeFi side of things, I think the biggest hurdle you're going to have is people are afraid to send out their Bitcoin, even no matter how safe it looks. They're just like, we've seen FTX and we've seen this and we've seen that. So anything you can do with transparency, exploring DeFi options, and although that opens up a whole new can of worms of potential problems that could go wrong. But I really like this. I love options trading in the stock market, and so I love bringing it over to crypto. So very, very cool. If people want to get involved, again, I always say there's the free ways and then there's the paid ways. So first off, you have a calculator down here where you can kind of choose, hey, which product is right for you. Again, the covered calls are going to be a little bit higher risk. The USDC, that's going to be a little bit lower risk, but you can mess around with the calculator there. But the free ways, first off, go check out their Medium. There's a lot of articles on there just about different stuff that they're doing. Again, sometimes Mediums aren't very useful, but on here, if you look at their Medium, they have a lot of info about just different things that they're doing. So go ahead and do that. That's the first way. Second off, hop in the Discord, hop in the Telegram. And Hank, do you find that you guys use Telegram or Discord more? Or is it kind of a mixture between the two?
Yeah, I think we're much more active on Discord.
Okay, so hop in the Discord, hop in the Telegram, and again, just ask all your questions. If you are not comfortable, you're like, I don't feel like I should give my Bitcoin to a stranger, then get to know them. Get to know, hear from some of the community. Say, hey, how long have you been in? What's been your experience like with Flynt? Become an informed investor. Follow on Twitter. Those are all the free options. If you're wanting to get involved financially, then yes, you've got to create an account. And this is, they are taking custody. So there's a KYC process, which is not too difficult. Then you're going to create a wallet. There's a nice article here that kind of talks about you're going to deposit in, some Bitcoin or some Ethereum. And then you subscribe. And then after that, you're done, right? There's nothing else you need to do after you subscribe. So it's that easy. Again, be much more difficult for you to go run the options yourself. You'd have to be checking it weekly. Do you want to talk about how rewards are paid out? Are they paid out weekly, or how does that work? And then do people have to go into Compound, or Is there auto compounding, or can you give us some of those details?
Yeah, so because we mainly run option strategies, we do weekly. So every Friday, the options get expired, and once it's expired, we settle it within our platform. So it's usually 8 a.m. UTC that it gets settled on each Friday. For USDC and Vega, we settle it on Wednesday just to reduce all the operations work focused on Friday. And yeah, it's just a weekly, it gets compounded automatically. And you're able to request for unsubscription anytime. And once it's settled, you'll be having that in your wallet available for withdrawal. So yeah.
Okay. And are there fees for withdrawing or fees for getting your funds out?
Yeah, I think for Bitcoin, it's like 0.0001 Bitcoin.
Okay.
So yeah, it's like $2 or something.
Okay. So it's not a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. And then I feel like I had one more really important question, but it left me, so it must have not been that important. So then it can be auto compounded Friday. Oh yes, what's the minimum? I saw. Okay, so minimum is 0.0001001 Bitcoin. For Ethereum, minimum is 0.01 Ethereum, and minimum is 500 USDC. So those are kind of the minimums if you're wanting to get in here. And I'll just tell my audience. Again, I hold on to a lot of Bitcoin. I believe that Bitcoin is going to be, if the rest of the world economy falls apart, which is a lot of it looks like it's going to. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with the debt ceiling and all this here in the States. But I've been accumulating Bitcoin for a long time. And I'll just say, for me personally, I will be putting some of it into Flynt Finance. So I think it's worth, I probably won't put 100% of it there, just because, you like to diversify and just, keep everything spread out a little bit. But it's too tempting. You sit your Bitcoin down and it makes a whopping 0% APY. And if you can put it in and get, 34% APY, it's just hard for me to not do that. So again, that's kind of my take on things. But again, not financial advice. It's up to you guys to decide, what are you comfortable with? I know a lot of you are going to say, nope, I'm not giving my custody to anyone else. And I get that. I mean, it kind of, in some ways, defeats the purpose of Bitcoin in some ways. So I totally get that. So, and again, if that's a discussion that you want to have with the team, hop into the Discord. I'm sure they get that all the time. They'd love to talk it over with you. So hop in the Discord and just get to know them and see if that's something that you want to do. So, well, Hank, that's all the questions I have. Your platform is so straightforward and easy to use, and just, the back testing and all the live results even. There's not a lot of things that I'm unclear about, so really appreciate that. Do you feel like there's anything we didn't touch on that you kind of want to emphasize before we wrap up here?
Yeah, I think you asked the right questions and the good questions. So I think I've answered most of the questions. And yeah, we're as James mentioned, we're more than happy to have a chat with you guys. We actually sent out an email today to do any one-on-one meetings if you need. So if you need any assistance or support or more clarification, feel free to just reach out to us. We're more than happy to chat.
Okay. No, and I love that you guys are willing to do that. Can I ask kind of how have things been going since you launched? Like, has the community been growing quickly? Have you found there's reluctancy, or what's kind of been your experience since you launched?
Yeah, so I think we grew relatively fast. So we hit the 1 million TVL at like the 3 to 4 month phase. Which was pretty good for us. Was not expected, and we just saw a lot of product market fit there. People really wanted a more degen strategy for Bitcoin, and then I think when we had the first loss, we went a little stagnant because it's very understandable, and my money is important, your money is important, is valuable, and we don't want to be losing it. So yeah, but we've revamped the strategy. So I think we're hoping to see some more growth over the next couple of weeks in the TVL. But we do have a cap on our strategies at the moment. So yeah, it will be best to get in before it gets filled out.
Okay, very good. And actually, this is a great question. I think we should touch on this before we wrap up here. Hey, James, how are you, brother? I'm doing very well. Thanks. The APY is fixed or changeable, and I just want to clarify. So when these are average yield APYs, so these are the yields going backwards. These are not the project. It's not, you're not saying you'll get 34% going forward. These are looking backwards. You've traditionally averaged 34%, but it's going to be very different. The live results could be different, but this is the average. Is that the right way of looking at that?
Yeah, so it's the average since the inception of the strategy. So the Bitcoin X strategy has only been running for 2 weeks, so that's a 2 week average. For the Bitcoin Covered Call X5, that's, I don't know, maybe like a 34-week average, including all losses. So we don't hide any losses. Including all losses, we're still making around 28% APY. So yeah.
Okay, very good. So yeah, so they're not promising, there's no fixed APY, which it would be concerning if there was, if they're doing options trading and they say, we guarantee we'll get you 25% APY on options trading. I'd be skeptical about a guaranteed a fixed APY on something like options trading. So this is what you want to see is we're making no promises about future results. We don't know what the markets are going to do. We don't know how this is going to work. Here's what we've done going backwards. So you can, kind of assume it should be roughly around that going forward. But again, just want to clarify that not a fixed, in DeFi, we do have a lot of those projects that are, we promise this amount. That's not what is going on here. And honestly, probably wouldn't have brought them on the channel if that's what they were doing, because that is not how trading or options or covered calls work. So like to see that. Quentin, questions always coming here at the end. Quentin says, who is their competition? Is there anyone else, or who do you know of competition? I guess it's kind of weird for you to be like, oh yeah, go check out these guys, and these guys. They're doing the same type of thing. But I know GMX is kind of doing some option stuff, like you mentioned. Are there big players in the space, and what would you kind of say makes you stand out from the other players in the space?
Yeah, so I think we're the only ones that are doing leveraged covered calls. We use leverage, but we kind of reduce the risk by setting more further out the money options. So further out the money means it's further away from being executed. So if the current market price is maybe like 28K, then we'll set it maybe at 32K. And there are some DeFi projects that are doing 1x covered calls, but they tend to set the strike price a little closer. And we're performing much better because we don't get many loss weeks compared to our competition. But yeah, I think in DeFi, like there is covered calls, but in centralized platforms, there's not many. So yeah, it's very hard to say who our competition is. A lot of the similar strategies are run by DeFi protocols. Whereas for centralized platforms, a lot of the centralized yield generating platforms aren't as transparent as how we try to be. So I don't think it's the right way to say they are our competition. Our strategies are completely different. The only safe thing is we try to generate yield for our customers. So yeah.
Okay. Nope. Very, very helpful. So, well, hey, this is awesome. Audience, I want to first thank you guys. Appreciate you guys hopping on to watch this and take a look at it. Again, something to consider. Again, there's just so much garbage in the space that I'm just thankful to find projects that, hey, we're actually generating some yield, some real revenue. We're not paying people out from new people coming in or anything like that. So something to consider. And I do want to encourage everyone here to hop into the Discord and at least educate yourself on how do covered calls work. I think this is a great one just for education on trading. And there's a lot of educational aspects of this one as well. And then Hank, thank you so much. First off, for building something in the space. Again, appreciative of that. I want to see the crypto space succeed. And so we need more good things. And thanks for coming on and talking through your vision. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, and thanks so much for your enthusiasm in options. A lot of the folks in the options, we really want the crypto options market to grow as well. So yeah, if like there's really nothing to lose just getting educated on cover call strategies or options trading. It'll be very helpful wherever you are, whether crypto, TradFi, stocks, commodities, whatever it is. It will work in any market. So yeah. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks so much for joining, everyone, and hope to see you in our Discord.
Yes, sounds great. Thank you, Hank. Thank you, community. Appreciate all of you and hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much.